6 years. I recently discovered my wife had an affair on me. A mutual friend of ours broke down and told me about my wife cheating on me, because she couldn't keep the secret anymore. I took this information and confronted my wife about it. I didn't initially let on that I had hard proof, but I questioned her about the incident that we had discussed in the past and told her I was still not convinced that there wasn't more to the story than she was telling me. 6 years ago, I had come across an email that she had sent her friend that discussed meeting up with another man, and it implied that she had seen this man on previous occasions as well. I was shocked and hurt at the time and confronted her about it then. She claimed that it was just a friendship and that nothing had ever happened, that she and her friend and another female friend were all just hanging out with this guy and a few other friends. I pushed further, and she admitted that he had tried to kiss her once and she had stopped him. At the time, I wanted to believe her and accepted that this was the truth. So now, I had the truth about what happened and knew there was more to the story. I asked her again if more had happened than she was telling me. She said no. I have her 2 more chances to tell me the truth, and she continued to deny anything more had happened. I finally told her that I had learned the truth from our friend, and I knew she had slept with the other man. At that point, she tried to blame shift and tell me how long ago it was and she was young and immature and that I shouldn't hold it against her now. This all happened 6 years ago. She apologized and cried and asked me to forgive her. I told her that if she would have told me the truth then, that I would have divorced her and moved on. We have since had a child who is 4, and she claims that since we now have a child, and things have been good since then, that I should at least give her another chance. My belief, at least as it stands, is that it isn't my fault that I didn't get the truth back then, and everything since has happened built on a foundation of lies. Am I being short-sighted and holding to my values and beliefs? We always agreed if one of us cheated, that would be the end of things. Why now should that be altered? And it isn't my fault that she lied to protect herself back 6 years ago. I found all of this out within the last week, so it's all still fresh in my head. I can't imagine being in a trusting, committed relationship with her ever again. I think of her touching another man and him touching her, and the visions make me sick. I told her at some point, I hope to be able to forgive her to the point of having a civil relationship for the sake of our child, but I don't think I can be in a relationship with her again. She wants to go to counseling to try to work through things, but at this point, I don't see why I would if I don't want to work things out. Has anyone else had experience with finding out the truth well after the actual affair? I feel like if I forgive her, it's like me saying if you do something bad, if you lie about it and cover it up, and hopefully a bunch of time goes by, that it somehow becomes less bad, like the statute of limitations runs out. I am living with other family at the moment. I decided that I needed some space and I didn't want our child to have to witness the strained relationship and arguments. My wife and I have been having some marital issues as of late, and I was talking to our friend about this and about how my wife has been distant, and I wondered if there could be someone else. This must have finally triggered her to tell me the truth. It was a tough burden for her to bear for all those years. I found out last night that there were actually 2 different men 6 years ago. One of the men she made out with on a few different occasions, and the other man she made out with, and it eventually led to an affair. I also found out that 2 years ago, she was drunk and out with some friends, and she was just flirting with a guy at the bar, and he kissed her. She admits that she kissed him back, but after 10 seconds or so, she stopped when she realized what she was doing. At this point, I wonder if there is more that she isn't telling me. The trickle truth phenomenon. The more recent situation where the guy kissed her at the bar, she was out for a girls' night with her friends. We both on occasion will go out with our friends and have some drinks and a night out. She has a group of friends that try to get together for a night out, happy hour or whatever, maybe once a month or so. They also go on a camping weekend every summer. I do the same thing with my friends. We head out of town to go fishing one weekend over the summer and we'll meet up maybe once a month for a night out. Maybe catch a ball game or something. I wasn't naive to think that men weren't going to approach her and her friends when they are out, but I never thought she would be openly flirting with other men, especially to the point that one would try to kiss her. It's tough to discern from her if she is really being completely open and honest, or if she is just telling me enough. I have to believe that what she has told me isn't everything, and that is hard to deal with. I have asked for details in regard to the guy she had slept with, and she has answered all of my questions. Again, not sure if it's everything or completely factual, but she feigns complete honesty. She claims the guy she had slept with, it only lasted a few minutes and she stopped him. It's kind of like the rule of 3 though. 2 minutes according to her would actually equal 6 minutes. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. Cheating is cheating whether it's for 10 seconds or 10 minutes. I'm glad I know the details. It's better than my own visions of what occurred, but it doesn't make it any easier to deal with what happened. Half year later. It's been a while, and I thought I'd post an update on where things currently are with me and my wife. I decided to move back in with her and my daughter, and to attend MC with her. A lot of things came up in MC, hard to hear and deal with, but we are working through them. Here is the real story as I have now been allowed to know it. 6 years ago, when I found out she was going to see the other man, and she rug sweep it as nothing. She was having an yêus with him. She had been depressed and distant from me, had pawned it off to hating her job and being homesick. I supported her in finding a new job and also with her going home to visit friends and family on the weekends when she wanted to. Her family lived about 2 hours away. During this time, she continued to want to crawl into a hole when she was home with me. She wasn't interested in spending time with me and was really withdrawn. From what she has new worked out with her IC and our MC, is that she had deep issues related to trust and intimacy, and couldn't give herself fully to the relationship. She could feel that something was wrong, that she wasn't happy in our relationship, and eventually turned the blame on me. It was easier to blame me than to try to dig deep and deal with her own problems. So, she blamed me for her unhappiness and turned away from me. She then turned to the other man to make herself feel better. Her yêus with this first man, the one I found the email about, turned into a P. But she claims they only kissed and fondled each other on top of their clothes. On a trip to her hometown, she was supposed to meet up with this first man, but the plans didn't work out. She ended up at a bar and saw a second man that she knew from high school, and ended up talking and flirting with him. And it eventually led to the physical encounter that she disclosed. So, while all of this is going on out of town, at home, she is increasingly withdrawing from me and our relationship. She would come home and things would get increasingly distant between us. It got to the point where she said she was seriously contemplating a divorce. She told me that she didn't love me and that she questioned if she ever loved me, that she wasn't attracted to me and that she'd be happier if she moved back to her hometown. We were in MC at the time, her suggestion, and I begged and pleaded with her to give MC a chance and to try to work it out. We continued with MC, but she was still going out of town every other weekend. I hadn't yet found the email about her seeing the guy yet. Things continued to get worse. And then I finally found that email and confronted her about the She denied anything had happened, that he had only tried to kiss her once, and nothing more had happened. In hindsight, she was planning on going and seeing him that coming weekend, and if she knew he had other ideas in mind besides just hanging out, why would she still want to go and see him? Stupid, naive me. So, once I confronted her, she stopped seeing the but was still distant from me. She refused to bond with me or even kiss me. I was made to feel like it was up to me to make her fall back in love with me and to stay with the marriage. I was so intent on fixing the marriage and getting her to stay. I didn't realize at the time that I wasn't seeing things for what they were. Even based on the limited info that I had, I bent over backward to make her happy, to try to get her over the hump and want to be married to me again. I eventually let her quit her job and supported her so she could go back to school and get another degree. Things obviously got better with time, and she snapped out of her funk, but all the while, she knew the truth. She knew the truth that she had cheated on me, and yet she had managed to turn it around and make me the one to beg for her to stay. She made me the one to make sacrifices so she could be happy. As I think about it now, it is pretty damn sadistic that she would allow me to act and feel that way. She cheated multiple times with 2 different men. She acted horribly to me, and yet I am the one who is begging and pleading and trying to make things better for her. I am really trying to move forward and forgive her for what she did, but it's hard. She has apologized and cried about what she did and how she acted and treated me. But it doesn't make the memories fade or make me forget how I felt. Knowing how I felt and then knowing how I really should have felt, had I known the truth, I am almost angrier with myself for allowing myself to act that way, for not taking a step back and asking why I didn't see the big picture. She tells me how she can't believe that I stayed and that I fought for her. I loved her and I wanted to make our marriage work. I was willing to do anything for her and for us. She knew that, and all the while was harboring these huge lies and continuing to tell them to me. I asked at least a few more times about what really happened with the man I had discovered in the email, and each time she stuck to her story. Having her lie to me right to my face, looking me dead in the eyes, is something that is going to take a long time to get over. We mainly have worked in MC on rebuilding trust. I think it's almost harder to deal with her blatantly lying to me than it is to deal with the actual cheating. They both are awful, but the idea that the person that I trusted more than anyone in the world could sit there and lie to me to my face continually is hard to deal with. Knowing that she could live with herself, seeing how hard I was working to win her back, when all the while it was her that had broken our vows and continually deceived and lied to me. We have had good times and bad since then. Not necessarily bad, but not good. We get stuck in a rut of not making time for each other and living somewhat as roommates. Our bonding life since the original incident has been hit and miss. It has been a continual point of contention between us. I think for me, her not being interested in bonding with me triggered my brain to go back to the time when she essentially told me she wasn't physically attracted to me. I guess I have always had an amount of doubt or questioning of her feelings for me since then. We have discussed it at length since the recent discoveries, and she assures me that she didn't mean it when she told me those things. that she was taking the easy way out of dealing with her problems by pushing me away, that it was easier to push me away and sabotage our relationship than dig deep and fix her own problems. As some have said, very selfish. Her actions since then have been completely different as far as her actions toward me. Aside from the lack of bonding, I have a keylogger on the computer and I check her phone regularly as well as the phone records. I know there is nothing going on and that she is fully committed to improving our relationship. I look at this woman who is truly trying to make amends and be a good, loving wife. The woman I see, I have a hard time believing could lie to me, deceive me and cheat on me a few years back. I guess what I need to figure out is if I can move past what all she did, or is it always going to be there and I am going to always resent her for how she treated me? I don't think I am doing the begging at all. I found out that she had lied to me all along, that she had in fact had an emotional affair and 2 separate physical affairs. And I left. I did the hardest thing I have ever done, and that was move out and away from my child. I lived with family for nearly 3 months while she begged me to come home, work on things, go to counseling, etc. I had no intention of doing any of those things, but I eventually relented and went to a counseling session and afterward, agreed to go back and try to work through our issues. We continue to do that, but it's hard. Things seem to be going well, and then we hit a rough patch. Where I am now, she is much more physically aggressive than she was in the past. She initiates much more than she ever has, and she is much more willing to share and experiment. She has many issues related to her past, one of which was a fear of being too physical and how that would expose herself. She is working on that and I see, and honestly has come a long way. She was X as a child, and the resulting rug sweeping by her parents and continued exposure to that family member has caused her to have numerous other issues. Her parents really dropped the ball all the way around in dealing with the abuse. Most of her issues today relate to the handling and lack of handling of the incident when she was a preschooler. It's pretty sad actually. I have no doubt that my daughter is mine. She was completely planned out and my wife got pregnant exactly when we tried to conceive. She looks just like me, face, hair color, etc. That I have zero doubt about. I have read every email she has sent since we began having problems, and she has never mentioned anything about her not being mine. She has written deep, secret stuff to her friends that she would probably never share with me, and none of it ever contained anything about my daughter not being mine. Our relationship right now is moving in the right direction. There are ups and downs, like I said. Right now, I am really in a rut. She seems very committed to working on our relationship. That part I am comfortable with. It's dealing with the past hurt, betrayal and manipulation that I really am trying to move past. I am not making excuses for her. She hasn't treated me like crap for the last 6 years. Things haven't been perfect, and we have both neglected our marriage at times. But once we moved past the incidents, as they were put forth, things were much better in regard to her treating me well and being a good wife. I do feel like I was sold a false bill of goods though, that she allowed me to make life decisions without knowing the true facts. That she has admitted that she knew I would have left her, had I known the truth of what she did. She admitted in counseling that the truth was not an option. It wasn't an option because she screwed up and knew the repercussions of that screw-up would mean me walking away. At that point, it would have been much easier. We had limited assets, no children, etc. So, I told her that essentially the lesson learned in that situation was to lie, cover things up, etc. and hope that enough time passes so that if the truth does come out, then you can use the excuse of look how many good things have happened since then. She is nothing but remorseful now. She wasn't then, at least not in her words and actions obviously. She claims to have been. But having to hide it from me obviously didn't allow her to act that way. That is a point of contention with me. I don't know how remorseful she could have been feeling, to continue to turn things around on me and make me feel like I was the one who had to do right by her and make her happy. Guilty I can believe to some extent, remorseful doesn't quite fit her actions. At the time she did it, she felt that our marriage wasn't able to be fixed. She felt like it was hopeless and pretty much fulfilled that prophecy with her actions. We have had a few more discussions about things over the past few days. The latest trigger was her talking to her friend, who was also having marital problems around the same time we were. 6 years ago. At the time, my wife and I had worked through our problems, or so I thought, based on what I had been allowed to know. And were doing much better. Her friend had been separated from her husband for about 4 months and had been with numerous guys over that time span. When she decided to work it out with her husband, she was completely open and honest with him about her actions. And he decided to take her back. Her friend's husband, seeing my wife and I doing better, decided he wanted to talk to me and see if I had advice based on our fixing our problems. Her friend was aware of my wife cheating on me with both guys and was also aware that my wife had lied and twisted things and allowed me to feel like the one who needed to change and make things better. So, for me to sit there and give out advice and act like I knew WTF needed to be done to fix a relationship was complete BS. Her friend knew it, my wife knew it, and they let me sit there and talk smart, knowing full well that my relationship was based on lies and deceit. My relationship was started back toward recovery when my wife decided she wanted to be married to me again. Once she made that decision, things started back toward a recovery. At that point, her main goals were to cover up all the cheating and lies she had filled me full of. And in the process, continue to allow me to believe that our problems were my fault. How young, stupid, and naive was I? I have concluded that I am very good at compartmentalizing things and trying to move forward and be happy, even though in my mind I really am not, or at least have not dealt with the issues enough to move past them. When things come up, and I mentally and verbally express to her how they made me feel, she has started getting defensive. In a "what do you want me to do with that information" way. Part of me can understand her frustration, as we have talked about these issues and events a number of times, but the other part of me doesn't know how to get past them. The fact that they are bothering me, I feel like I need to let her know that that is what the problem is. She thinks that me going over the events again is my way of trying to make her hurt as much as I am, by keeping it all fresh in her mind. She said if I am trying to punish her or threaten her, that she deserves it, that she feels fortunate every day that I am still a part of her life after what she did to me, that she wouldn't blame me if I felt like I couldn't get past it and needed to walk away. So, we talked again last night, and I asked her to go through what her thoughts and emotions were at the time that she first cheated on me, where her head was at. She said at the time, she was unhappy and felt like there was something wrong with our marriage and with her, that she couldn't figure out what was wrong though, and she was too independent to ask me for help. She had learned as a child after her abuse that the only person she could truly count on was herself. So, she started balling up and pushing everything else away, including me. That led to her twisting it around and blaming me for her being unhappy and for our marriage to not be what it should be. During this whole time, I knew she was unhappy and depressed, but didn't realize it was related to our marriage and to me. I thought it was more related to her being away from home and her friends and family, and her not being happy at work. She never opened up to me. So, she essentially came to a place where she felt like our relationship was unfixable, that it was hopeless between us. That was what she used as justification to cheat on me. Since our relationship was junk, it didn't matter if she cheated on me then. She did all of this and came to all of these conclusions, mind you, without ever talking to me about the problems with the marriage. So, I asked her, how could you say our marriage was broken and not able to be fixed, when you hadn't once talked about those problems with me? How does that make any sense? It doesn't. I don't agree that I am allowing her to rug sweep. I believe that she is truly remorseful. What do you think she is trying to blame me for? She blamed me at the time she had the affairs, but she has taken full responsibility now for her actions. Here is what she wrote to me this morning. My apologies for it being long. I was feeling hopeless in my marriage because I didn't know what was wrong or what needed to be fixed. I felt like we were out of sync and felt hopeless to fix what I didn't understand was wrong. I would look at my loving husband, my beautiful house, a good paying job, and kept telling myself that I should be happy. It looked like I had everything, but something still felt off. Something was missing. I thought something was wrong with me but would never allow myself to go deep enough to discover what it was. I thought that if I would dig deep enough, I would find out how damaged I was and that I wasn't worthy of a loving, lasting marriage, that it wasn't possible for me. The reason I think I didn't go to you about my feelings was because I felt it was my own problem. I felt there was something wrong with me that I needed to fix but didn't know how. It was something I didn't want to admit to you, and I'm sure being my independent self, I didn't want to ask for help anyway. This unfortunately led me down the path to begin blaming you because I couldn't find the answers in myself. I managed to make things worse with every thought and action that I did. I don't know how I could have made the situation any worse. So, I cowardly turned the blame on you. Then I turned away from you to feel better about myself by getting attention from other men. It felt good getting the attention and flirtation from the other men, and since I felt that things were hopeless between us, since I believed we wouldn't figure out how to fix our marriage, or the fact that I felt I was unfixable or unworthy, I allowed things to progress. It was a constant struggle though, because I would switch from feelings of hopelessness to a hope or need or desire to make things work and wanting that loving relationship for myself and us. I have no problem with you having these feelings and trying to work them out, but it was the way you presented it to me a few weeks ago, when you just start listing off all the ways I've hurt you, which we've already discussed multiple times before. It feels like you are just trying to remind me of how I hurt you and keep it fresh in my mind. You were saying these things like it was the first time you had ever told me, like I had never heard it before. That is why I said the other night that it felt like you really hadn't dealt with those feelings, because it seemed that you were trying to make me hurt as much as you still were. That is also why I feel the need to keep apologizing to you, or kissing your ass, because I feel like you don't believe that I understand how much I hurt you. Do you need to keep reminding me because you feel like I don't get it? Are you trying to punish me or threaten me for what I did to you? If so, I deserve it, but I do get it. And I remind myself every day of how lucky I am to still have you in my life after all of the horrible things I did to you. I don't know what else to say or do to help you through this, and it scares me to say, But I wouldn't blame you if you felt you never could get over it and that you needed to walk away. You are exactly right about me making you feel like it was your fault and that it was up to you to somehow win me back. As I said before, I look back at that time and feel like every decision I made led me to hurt you even worse. All of that hurt and pain I caused you was because I was out to protect myself. This is why it is so hard to look back at that time, because it is unfathomable now to think that I would hurt you like that. That I didn't hold our marriage more sacred, and that I felt I couldn't count on you to help me and be my true partner. And ultimately that I would turn around and blame you and make you feel that it was your fault. These last few months have been so lonely and disconnected that it sends me to places of doubting that you could ever truly love me again. Especially when you look back to that person. I was ... Why would you want to stay married to me? I will do whatever it takes to help you through this, if that is possible. I love you so much and am thankful for your love every day. OP continues. I have actually brought that exact point up to her, that if she had told me the truth then, I would have left her. Why should it be any different now? She answered that so much has happened since then, and we have made a number of life choices in the meantime, buying a house, having kids, etc. I told her that all those choices were made under false pretenses, that had I known the truth, I would not have decided to do any of those things with her, that I would have been gone. So basically, me relenting now, says that if you lie about something and put up a smokescreen long enough, if the truth does finally come out, it shouldn't be as bad if enough time has gone by. Update: my wife and I are almost 11 months from D-Day. Things are going pretty well actually. There are still bumps in the road from time to time, but on a daily basis, things are going well. Our communication, commitment to our marriage and intimacy are better than they have ever been. She is completely transparent. I have access to whatever email, Facebook or cell phone accounts I would ask for. My trust levels with her have grown over time as well. I do still question at times if she has told me everything, but as someone on here pointed out, there is no point in dwelling on knowing it all, that I just need to come to grips with the fact that she hurt me deeply regardless of if I know everything. I have made the decision to work out our problems and commit to our marriage, so I need to concentrate on that and not sit on the fence and sway back and forth. That doesn't mean I don't have the right to have a bad day or have something trigger me, but as a whole, I am committed to working on strengthening my relationship with my W. I do still have issues with the mind movies, which at this point, I know are my issues to deal with. I knew it would be an issue from D-Day on, and I try to do my best to cope with them. She has admitted that subconsciously, she thinks she wanted me to find out about her affairs, that the stress and mental anguish of lying to me was too much for her to bear, that even though she knew I might leave her, that she needed me to finally know. We did just have a fairly difficult discovery a few weeks ago. I recently discovered in looking through the old checks from that period of time, that the lab sent us a bill for the copay for her appointment. She went to get an STD test after her one-night fun, and I actually wrote the check that paid for the STD test. Unknowingly, obviously. How messed up is that? I questioned her on if she got a pregnancy test at that time too. She was off the pill at the time, so she could very well have gotten pregnant given the circumstances. What a mess she could have created. So, my WW and I are almost a year and a half past D-Day and doing well. No problems have come up, and we are both really making time for each other and are committed to the relationship and making it stronger. Things have been pretty hectic the last few months, as my wife has gone back to work for the first time in 8 years. She was a stay-at-home mom. I occasionally check up on her, without her knowing it, as I have all her logins for her email and Facebook. No red flags at all for the last year and a half. I also on occasion will check her phone for text messages or calls and have never found anything suspicious. I also have access to the phone records and can check numbers she has called, but not texted. We have Sprint. At the end of May, she texted me and said she was going out for happy hour with some people from work, as they had just finished up their big project and people wanted to go out for a drink. I honestly was a bit uneasy about her going out, as I don't know a soul that she works with. She's only been there a few months. She said she'd be home by dinner time, so I figured it wasn't a big deal. Plus, she didn't ask if it was okay, she just said she was going. At any rate, she was home when she said she would be. She was only at the bar for an hour or hour and a half. Everything has been normal since then, but last night I happened to go through her phone messages, and on that night, she texted a male co-worker and told him to have a good trip. He was apparently going out of state. She sent him a second text with her name on it. Apparently, he may not know who the first text was from. He simply replied thanks, and that was the end of the texts, at least what was left on her phone. I checked her phone records, and she had never made a call to that number before and has not made one since. And there are no texts from him since that day, at least that she hasn't deleted. She is home every day promptly after work, and she has not gone out without me since that day either. So I don't really suspect that anything has happened. I am just really bothered by her sharing phone numbers with a male co-worker and initiating a text message with him. Am I overreacting? She obviously must have gotten in the car that night after their work happy hour and then sent him the text. Why would she need to reach out to him in that instance? To me, it's inappropriate given the circumstances, but I don't think it's a big enough deal to call her out on it. I plan to continue to monitor her texts and other communication, but wanted some feedback from others. About 1 year later, my wife talked to me on Thursday and asked if it would be all right for her to go to dinner and drinks with her cousin on Friday night. We didn't have plans. It obviously sounds like a normal evening out with her cousin. So I said it was fine. Her cousin is having some marital issues of her own, and is kind of going down a similar path my wife did back in the day in regard to seeking out male attention to make herself feel better. Must run in the family. I know she does this because my wife tells me about it and is contemplating sitting her cousin down to tell her she needs to go to counseling with her husband to sort out their issues. They have many, so, given her cousin's actions in the past, I am a bit leery of them going out in certain settings. They went out about 6 months ago to a concert at a smaller venue and her cousin was talking to a member of the band between sets. After the concert, her cousin wanted her and my wife to go backstage to hang out with the band. My wife knew it was not an appropriate situation and said no. Her cousin pressed my wife and questioned what the big deal was. But my wife insisted that she would not do that to me, that she would feel guilty if she did and did not tell me, and knew that if she did and she told me, that I would be upset with her. So obviously the cousin is not the greatest influence on her. So, they have gone out in the past to certain bars that are known locally as pickup joints. Her cousin goes out of her way to garner male attention and fully embraces it. Well, generally men aren't alone, and friends will follow and then eventually put my wife into situations where men are hitting on her, etc. So, I have expressed my displeasure for this bar in particular and have made it clear that I am not comfortable with her going there, particularly with her cousin. They will generally meet for dinner and drinks at a couple of different restaurants about once a month or so, which to me is just fine. So, I told her it was fine to meet her cousin for dinner and drinks after work on Friday. And she sent me an email on Friday morning while I was at work, reminding me she was going out and told me she was going to the main restaurant they generally go to. I headed home and had a quiet evening at home. My wife got home around 10:30, which struck me as late, but in honesty, I've been out until a similar time with my friends having a few extra drinks after dinner. Well, yesterday, my curiosity got the best of me and I looked through her phone. Her texts back and forth with her cousin were in it, and I read one that said they were going to meet at the newly opened second location of the pickup joint that we specifically had a discussion about me not liking her to go to with her cousin. So, I now knew that she did not go where she had initially told me she was going. I didn't look further at this point but did notice a to-go box in the fridge, so I asked her if she ate her usual menu item at the restaurant they usually go to. She openly told me that she went to the new location of the pickup joint, that they wanted to check it out and see what it was like. I didn't press the issue for whatever reason, because she so openly admitted that they had gone there. Well, yesterday, I looked through her phone again to see if there were any additional texts detailing their plans for that night. Well, as I am looking, the initial text was from her cousin asking if she could go out on Friday. My wife then responded, after talking to me, that she was in. The cousin then said she really wanted to go out for drinks and dancing and suggested either the pickup joint or another pickup joint. My wife then wrote back and suggested the new location of the pickup joint. The cousin agreed to go there and my wife said she meet her there at 7 on Friday. All of these texts were sent on Thursday the 4th during the afternoon. So as of Thursday afternoon, this was the plan, that they were going to the new location of the pickup joint. The email my wife sent me telling me she was going out to their usual restaurant was sent on Friday morning the 5th. So, she openly lied about where she was going. This is what bothers me, obviously. So today, I replied to her email from Friday morning where she told me she was going to their usual spot, and told her I was bothered by the change in venue, that she knew I didn't like her going there, and at what point was it decided to go to the pickup joint. She replied that it was a last-minute decision, that her cousin wanted to check out the new patio at the place. Lie number 2. She said she was inconsiderate and should have thought about my not wanting her to go there and should have told her cousin they were going to stick with the original destination. Lie number 3. It was her idea to go to the pickup joint. She basically apologized up and down for not taking my feelings into consideration, and she agreed that her cousin is a bad influence and that even though they were at the pickup joint, that she felt that they would be out of there early enough to avoid the guys hitting on them. She said she was later getting home because she and her cousin talked in the parking lot for 45 minutes before they finally left. I told her I did not appreciate her going to a spot regardless that she knew made me feel uncomfortable, that I do not trust her cousin to not put her into a situation she should not be in, and that I would hope in the future that she would take my feelings into consideration. I have not told her I know she is lying, as I don't want to put it out there that I looked through her phone. I guess I don't know why she even came out and admitted that she went there in the first place so openly if she was going to lie about whose idea it was to go there. The fact that she brazenly lied about where she was going on Friday morning, to me says she absolutely knew she shouldn't be going there. And that she is now lying to cover up that this was the planned destination all along makes it even worse. My comment: unbelievable. Your wife based on her past, and this again confirms she is a liar and apparently is very good at manipulating you. If the roles were reversed after you had previously cheated on her and it was you who suggested going to a nice pickup place, how would she be feeling? You are one of the nice guys who continually will be cheated on because many women see this as a form of weakness that can be manipulated to their advantage. No consequences to her actions equal no motivation to change. Your wife continues to show you that she has very little respect for you and your marriage. If you do not respect yourself, then who will? Some viewers might not like these stories, but I think they are a good example of what not to tolerate. There are plenty of other stories I posted where OP makes the correct decisions. It is up to you to decide what you do in your relationship.